I'm Audrey. Princess Audrey? Sleeping Beauty's daughter.
We don't mean to bother you, Sleeping Beauty, but we're a little concerned and confused. Your daughter Audrey nearly destroyed her enemies in Auradon in Descendants 3, but you were nowhere to be found. Your mom Leo was there, and she even patched things up with Mal. So we just want to know why you weren't by your daughter's bedside when Hades saved her life. Audrey could have used the support.
Tell me it was all a bad dream.
We probably weren't the only ones who wanted to see Princess Aurora in Descendants 3. Luckily, Audrey's mom popped up in a popular TV series, so we finally know what she looks like and whether or not she looks like Audrey. Keep watching to see what the missing parents from Descendants 3 really look like.
No. I don't hate my mother.
Dizzy and Drizella. Dizzy's grandmother, Lady Tremaine, might be a total villain, but her daughters Anastasia and Drizella aren't exactly the conniving type. They just do what they're told. We never catch a glimpse of Dizzy's mom in Descendants 2 and 3, but we do get to see her in Once Upon a Time. Funny enough, Anna Cathcart actually played the teenage version of Drizella on the show. Uma and Ursula. Uma is one of our favorite VKs, and she's the daughter of Ursula. While we don't get to see the Sea Witch in Descendants 2, we do catch a glimpse of her long tentacles.
Son, you're clowns! Mom! These dishes ain't gonna wash themselves!
We know that actress Whoopi Goldberg voiced Ursula in the Disney Channel movie. However, we get to see a better look at Ursula in Once Upon a Time. Chad, Cinderella, and Prince Charming. In 2015, Disney released the live-action remake of Cinderella. Actress Lily James portrayed Cinderella, while actor Richard Madden played Prince Charming. This movie told the tale of how Cinderella and Charming fell in love. And thanks to the Descendants franchise, we know that they eventually had a son named Chad. Lonnie and Mulan. Lonnie is a brave and talented fighter who never backs down from a fight, and she gets that from her warrior parents Mulan and Li Shang. The live-action remake of Mulan is hitting the big screen on March 25th, 2020, and we're super excited. We'll get to see the real-life version of Lonnie's mother, Mulan. Doug and Dopey. Doug has got to be the nicest AK in Auradon. He never had a problem with the VKs attending Auradon Prep.
Hi guys, I'm Dopey's son, as in dopey, dog, bashful, happy, grumpy, sleepy.
And he made everyone feel welcomed. He probably gets this from his dad, Dopey, who once risked everything by letting a stranger move into his home. We never get to see Doug's dad in the Descendants movies, but he does pop up in Once Upon a Time. Allie and Alice. Allie is a character who doesn't appear in the actual Descendants movies. However, Allie is a popular AK when it comes to the animated short series Descendants Wicked World. We wish Allie could have made it into D3. It would have been super cool to see Allie and Alice standing side by side. Luckily, we know exactly what Alice looks like thanks to the live-action Alice in Wonderland movies. Audrey, Aurora, and Philip. Much like Dizzy, we never get to see Audrey's parents in D3, but we do get to meet her grandmother.
Our family status gone.
Queen Leia is a real piece of work, but she starts to loosen up by the end of the threequel. We never get to see Princess Aurora or Prince Philip, which is a total bummer. But once again, we get to meet the younger versions of Audrey's parents in Once Upon a Time. Evie and the Evil Queen. Evie and the Evil Queen might have their differences, but they connect over beauty and fashion. We get to see what Evie's mom looks like in the first Descendants film, but it's hard to see the resemblance. In Once Upon a Time, we get to meet a very different version of the Evil Queen. Actress Lana Parrilla portrays Evie's soon-to-be mother on the show. Ruby, Inkselin, and Rapunzel. Much like Allie, Ruby and Inkselin don't appear throughout the Descendants franchise, but they are leading characters in the Descendants Wicked World miniseries. Rapunzel is one of the most adored Disney princesses of all time, so we would have loved to see her and her kids appear in Descendants 3. We know what Rapunzel looks like as a cartoon, and thanks to Once Upon a Time, we now know what she looks like in human form. Gil and Gaston. Gil is the furthest thing away from being a villain. He just wants to make friends, go on adventures, and try some cool new foods.
Furry rocks, giant fish. You're probably used to grabbing lunch off of a bush.
But his dad Gaston isn't the chummy type. Gil hardly ever mentions his father, and after watching the 2017 live-action remake of Beauty and the Beast, we finally know why. Gaston is super pompous and self-involved. Jay and Jafar. We know what Jafar looks like thanks to the Descendants franchise, but we were curious to see what he looked like when he was younger. Jay's dad can be seen in the 2019 live-action remake of Disney's Aladdin. He's portrayed by actor Marwan Kenzari. Mal and Maleficent. In 2015, Kristen Chenoweth took the stage to portray Mal's mother, Maleficent, in the first Descendants film.
It's all about you and me, baby. Do you enjoy watching innocent people suffer?
But we haven't seen her since Mal transformed her into a lizard. But we get to see younger versions of Maleficent and Ursula battling it out on the episode of Once Upon a Time, Harry and Captain Hook. The cartoon version of Captain Hook was pretty evil and outdated. Thankfully, Once Upon a Time brought us a Captain Hook that does his son Harry a lot of justice. Both father and son are gifted in the looks department, and they're both a lot nicer than they pretend to be. Who is your favorite child-parent duo? Tell us in the comments. Mirror, mirror on the wall, who's the baddest villain parent of them all? We've got some clues about the missing parents of the villain kids in the Disney Descendants movies. Watch until the end to find out which of the villain kids might actually be siblings.
See, I'm just trying to teach you the thing that really counts. How to be me.
The villains on the Isle of the Lost have certainly been busy since their banishment to that crowded chunk of land with no magic. In Descendants, they established that the villain kids Mal, Evie, Jay, and Carlos are the children of Maleficent, the evil queen, Jafar, and Cruella de Vil, respectively. We know that they didn't exactly have a flair for loving parenting. In fact, they're downright mean and selfish to their kids. Mal grows up being praised for things like backstabbing her best friends. Evie thinks she must flirt with and manipulate men to get what she wants. Jay is a thief, and Carlos has an irrational phobia of dogs. Not exactly the best marks of good parenting. In the first movie, the villain parents tried to manipulate the villain kids into stealing Fairy Godmother's wand so they could destroy the barrier around the Isle.
The barrier is broken. We're free.
Thankfully for Auradon, Mal and her friends chose to be good. Maleficent didn't take the news very well. She took advantage of a breach in the barrier and escaped to Auradon, where she terrified everyone when she turned into a dragon. Unfortunately for Maleficent, she was magically transformed into a tiny lizard. In fact, all 4 of the transferred villain kids stood up to their parents and decided to stay in Auradon. All the villain kids seem to be doing well without their parents. In fact, we haven't seen much of the villain parents since the first movie. But fans still have one major question about the villains on the Isle. Why are they all single parents? We've got some theories about the whereabouts of these missing parents. Mal's dad. Everyone is pretty sure that Hades is Mal's dad, but we won't know for sure until Descendants 3 comes out. In the novel, The Isle of the Lost, Mal's father is mentioned a few times. One thing Maleficent says about Mal's dad is that he's a pathetic little human. That doesn't really match up with the theory that Mal's dad is Hades. Hades isn't human. He's the lord of the underworld. But was he once human before? Whatever happened, it's clear that it didn't work out between Mal's dad and Maleficent. So that means Mal's only real role model was an angry, bitter, magicless sorceress with a singular mission of revenge. It's a wonder Mal turned out decent at all. So what happened to split up Mal's parents? Maybe there's only room for one narcissistic, selfish, cruel parent in the family. Can you imagine an argument between Hades and Maleficent? If they had access to their magic, they would have made their castle explode in a fiery display of blue and purple flames. One thing is certain, all the fans are excited to see Mal's reunion with her long-lost father. But if it is Hades, will he be on Mal's side? Or is he the one draining her magic? From the latest Hades trailer that Disney released, it's clear that Hades has a score to settle. He's bitter that he has been exiled to live out his days.
To a crowded little island with no magic, no freedom, no hope.
He wants to make the king and queen of Auradon pay for what they've done. Since the king and queen are the parents of Mal's boyfriend, that would put him at odds with Mal. And we know from the mystery trailer that Mal is trying to get her hands on Hades' Ember. So this may not be the happy father-daughter reunion we've all been waiting for. for. Evie's dad. We know that Grimhilde, aka the Evil Queen, is the most beautiful and cruel queen on the Isle. So who could Evie's dad possibly be? One fan believes it could be Gaston from Beauty and the Beast. When you think about it, that makes a lot of sense. He's vain like the Evil Queen. He wanted only the best, most beautiful woman in the land, but then Belle chose the Beast. Now, technically, Gaston fell off the castle at the end of Beauty and the Beast, but did he really meet his demise? According to the actor who voiced the character, the answer is no. In an interview, he shared that he is 100% certain that Gaston just had a bad fall. He thinks Gaston probably just got a nasty bump and may have forgotten himself for a while. Perhaps he has a bit of villain amnesia, but Richard White is convinced we'll see him again. But we're not totally convinced. After all, the animators did draw skulls in the pupils of his eyes, which is a pretty big indicator that he didn't survive the fall. That would make it impossible for him to be Evie's dad, and also that would make Evie and Gil half-brother and sister. Speaking of half-sisters, there's another fan theory that would turn Evie's bestie into her half-sister. This fan theory points to Hades as Evie's potential father. If he's also Mal's dad, that would make Mal and Evie half-sisters. If Hades dated both Maleficent and the Evil Queen, we doubt he would live to tell the tale, but maybe he was protected from their vengeance by being locked up. Another more feasible theory is that Evie's father is the huntsman. You know, the guy who ran Snow White out into the woods in the animated film. However, he was supposed to bring the Queen Snow White's heart in a box, and he didn't do it. We can't imagine the Evil Queen letting him live that one down. Jay's mom. Jafar is among the other evil single parents on the Isle whose past is a bit of a mystery. Besides Jasmine, he never had a love interest. He seemed only interested in power and control. On the Isle, he's obsessed with finding the lamp with a genie inside so he can make his wishes come true. But who could Jay's mom actually be? One fan had quite an interesting theory about this. When you look at Jay, you can see that he's clever, charismatic, nimble, acrobatic, and a master thief. That sounds like another character from a classic Disney movie. Aladdin and Jay are so much alike that it's spooky. In fact, Jay bears a closer resemblance to Aladdin than he does to Jafar. Additionally, Jafar talks about Jasmine on several occasions in the Descendants movie. Disney fans are like expert detectives. Many of them came to the conclusion that Jay might actually be the son of Aladdin and Jasmine, but that Jafar cast some sort of spell on them and stole Jay for himself. That way, he could have someone to do his bidding while he is stuck on the Isle. So maybe Jasmine and Aladdin are completely oblivious to the fact that they may have a son, and that he's been kidnapped and that he was stuck living out his days on the Isle of the Lost until Ben invited him and the rest of the VKs to Auradon. So will we be seeing more than one parent reunion in D3? We'll have to just wait and see.
Really, Mom?
Yes! Who would touch up my roots, fluff my fur, and scrape the bunions off my feet?
Carlos. So Carlos's mom, Cruella de Vil, is downright frightening. She's not only ruthless against people who get in her way, but she's also not exactly a friend to the canine world either. She views all living beings as there to serve her needs, including her own son. She made him sleep in her closet to protect her furs. She instilled a crippling, irrational fear of dogs in him from an early age. She makes him scrape the bunions off of her feet. Gross. She seems like the worst mother in the bunch. So who would want to marry and have a kid with this monstrous woman? Many fans have speculated that she could have hooked up with one of her henchmen, Jasper or Horace. Another fan has suggested King Candy from Wreck-It Ralph as the bad guy who stole Cruella's heart. But Carlos may never find out the truth about who his father really is. Cruella doesn't seem like the kind of mother who would sit her son down for a heart-to-heart talk. Since it must get lonely on the Isle, there's a chance that Jafar and Cruella got together at some point. That would make Carlos and Jay half-brothers. That would explain their playful chemistry. They're constantly play-fighting and wrestling around. They definitely have that brotherly energy between them. But regardless of who Carlos's dad could be, it's clear that Cruella couldn't hold down a steady relationship. That's because she views others as only there to serve her. Not to mention, she keeps talking to that stuffed dog on her shoulder, and that is just weird. Celia. We don't know much about Celia and her dad, Dr. Facilier, yet. In an interview at the Disney Fan Fest, Judah Marie shared that Celia is a daddy's girl. She also mentioned that she's all about the cash, just like her father. So it seems like they're pretty close. But who is Celia's mother? We would venture to say that Celia came to Dr. Facilier as part of a deal he made with an unsuspecting victim of his voodoo magic. He doesn't exactly deal fairly with people. So what if he sort of Rumpelstiltskined his way into having a daughter of his own? That would make it hard to pin down her real parents. They could be anybody who got tricked by the great voodoo doctor. The only ones who know for sure are his friends on the other side. Uma. Uma clearly takes after her mother Ursula. She's got the same sass, the same bad temper, and the same octopus morphing abilities. It's gotta be hard to make room for anyone else among all those tentacles. Ursula wanted to be the queen of the sea. She tried to overthrow King Triton, and wound up with a ship in the gut instead. She also went after Prince Eric as Vanessa when she stole Ariel's voice. This sea witch will stop at nothing to snag a royal man and take all of his power. So what if Prince Eric was tricked into falling for Ursula sometime after The Little Mermaid? That would make Prince Eric Uma's dad. But that doesn't quite seem to fit with Uma's personality and abilities. We think it could be King Triton. We're not sure how, but maybe Uma is the love child of King Triton and Ursula. That would make Ariel and all of her sisters related to Uma. Either King Triton doesn't know that Uma is his daughter, or he's trying to distance himself from the most terrifying sea witch in the ocean. Another possibility for Uma's father is the evil pirate who tried to destroy Peter Pan. That's right, we're talking about Captain Hook. This would make Uma and Harry half-sister and brother. That would explain their chemistry and inseparable bond. Many fans have been shipping these two pretty hard, but what if they turned out to be related? That would be totally gross. After examining all of the villain parents on the Isle, one thing seems quite apparent. None of them seem capable of sustaining a loving relationship. They're all selfish, evil, greedy, vengeful, lying, thieving, power-hungry people who shouldn't be anyone's parents. At the end of the day, that's why the VKs only have one parent each. They couldn't get along with anyone else for long enough to create a loving family. And the parents who stuck around only did so because they wanted to use their kids to do their evil bidding. It's no wonder Mal and the gang wanted to flee to Auradon. They had to escape a terrible upbringing with parents who didn't love them. They only thought of themselves. Why do you think the villain kids only have one parent? Do you agree with our theories about who their parents could be? You've got two of the strongest parents in the Disneyverse, Mal, so that makes you like a pretty big deal. It's just too bad that your dad jumped ship when you were just a baby. He could have taught you so much about your godly powers. Sure, your mom was no piece of cake, but at least she stuck around, right? The mistress of evil and the god of the underworld don't come off as a lovey-dovey couple. But believe us when we say that it was love at first sight. Hades and Maleficent may be divorced, but once upon a time, they saw something special in each other. Keep watching to find out the truth about Hades and Maleficent's love story. But heads up.
We want it all. We want beards.
Watching to find out the truth about Hades and Maleficent's love story. But heads up, it doesn't end on a high note.
No, I left your mother. She's...
The big reveal. If there's one thing most VKs have in common, it's having a missing parent. Since the first Descendants film came out in 2015, fans have been curious to find out who Mal, Evie, and Carlos's dads are, and who Jay's mom is too. But it wouldn't be until the third Descendants film that the cat got out of the bag. Despite keeping it a secret from everyone but Evie, Mal finally spilled the beans and revealed that her father was none other than Hades, the god of the underworld. Ben was shocked to say the least, and more than a little terrified.
Am I invited to the wedding?
Hi, Dad.
After all, Hades would eventually become his father-in-law. Hades did what he had to do. Fans were certain that Hades would turn out to be Mal's dad, and they were right. In Descendants 3, Mal and Celia walk into Hades' lair to steal his ember, but he catches them in the act. Mal calls him dad before they join in on the wicked duet, Do What You Gotta Do. But before they can belt out their emotions, Hades reveals that he was once married to Maleficent.
No, I left your mother. She's
not the easiest person to get along with.
Hades then tries to bond with Mal over the fact that they both hate Maleficent. But hate is a pretty strong